saying, hi, Mom.
And now you know who you really need to pray for. My husband mentioned that I did teach him to sing, but then when they were in diapers.
She's mine.
Yeah, okay. That's enough. When they were in diapers, but he mentioned they were in diapers till they were 12. So I had some time to work there. But it's really good to be with you guys here tonight. It's really good to have my aunt and cousin here. Funny story, we had a concert like a month ago in Florida, very South Florida, where a lot of our relatives live. And so my aunt from Texas drove 20 some hours down to be at our concert in Florida, where she found out that we were having a concert in Texas. So, yay for good aunts that come to all your concerts, no matter how far she has to drive. But it is true that I taught the kids to sing, but actually this did not come because I'm musical or because I'm all that talented at all. I actually can't read notes. My husband was a pastor. We graduated from the same Bible college that Nicholas attends now. And so we were attending the Bible college, and we got a call to be pastors in Pennsylvania. And so we moved there. And I was I thought, I had always thought I was going to grow up and save souls and reach people for Jesus. And so we moved to this parsonage out in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And I thought, oh, good. Now it's my job to help my husband do ministry. And instead, I stayed home and changed diapers for 12 years. And I had 3 very hyperactive little boys at home. And I remember, and some of you can identify with me, feeling very overwhelmed, because you see these paintings of motherhood, like the children gather at her knee and they just seem to do everything she wanted. And that just was not our picture. And I felt very overwhelmed, and I remember just crying out to God and saying, God, what is this? Where is my ministry? I thought I was going to help save the world. And instead, I'm sitting here changing diapers. And I felt God so clearly speak to my heart and say, Emily, they are the souls you're supposed to be reaching. You start with them. And it's so easy. I'm not condemning anybody that works. Please believe me, I understand the needs that happen. But it is so easy to get distracted as moms and as grandmas and everybody else from what's sitting at your knee that doesn't look very glamorous, and to focus on the wrong thing. And it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't like they just raced around me and said, yay, Mom, you're so wonderful. It wasn't like that at all. But I started thinking and praying and asking God to help me. And I started realizing that I could remember things like Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. All of us could quote those because we learned them when we were little kids. And I started thinking about my childhood. And I actually was raised when I spent about 13 years of my life in Guatemala, Central America. My parents were missionaries. And so I didn't learn to speak English till I was about 5 years old, actually. But I remember being about 3 years old or 4 years old, and my parents called me into their bedroom, and they said, Emily, we need to help you. We need you to help us pray. We are going to the States, and we are going to be driving to the States, to Texas, and we need a new car. And so we need you to help us pray that God would give us a new car. And I remember being that 4-year-old little girl and kneeling down beside my parents' bed. And I just really earnestly prayed, Dear Jesus, please bring my parents a car. They say we need a new car. Please bring us a car and help it to be red. And God probably laughed. But you know what? The next day, it was a very dangerous place, at least where we lived, it was very dangerous. And so there were these big gates outside, like big metal doors, because they didn't want thieves to break in. And somebody knocked on the outside of there, and I went and opened the door. My parents went out and opened the door, and I was behind them. And I heard the people say to my parents, we heard that you wanted to buy a car, and we have one for sale, and we thought you might want to look at it. And I peeked between my parents. And what color do you think I saw?
It was a red car.
We have some believers here tonight. I saw red. And you could say there's a lot of red cars out there, and you would be right. And you could say that it was a coincidence, and that's where we would disagree. Amen. Because while I don't want you all going home and praying for red cars, I don't want to get your emails about what didn't work out for you that you prayed for, but I believe with all of my heart that God saw the sincerity of my heart, And he wanted me to know that he cared about what I cared about.
Amen.
And I have never gotten over that. And so when I became a mom, I knew that I could trust my God with my children. And I knew that I could shamelessly tell them and push them in his direction, knowing that he will also care about what they care about. And that is where this whole thing came from. It was never in our plans to travel, believe me. My husband's a full-time minister. We just started having two services on Sunday. Our life feels really crazy, but it was God's idea for this ministry to happen. He is the one that started me telling them and indoctrinating them through these songs. And I would encourage you, if you're a mom or a grandma or you have neighborhood kids, tell your kids about Jesus, not just, okay, you can sit and tell them about Jesus, but also by the songs. These songs that they sing were not chosen because they're fun to sing, even though they are and they make everything lively, but they were picked because of the words and because I want those words. You know, people sometimes go to prison, do whatever, and they can't get away from what they heard and what they learned in their childhood. And it's very important what you teach children. And so that is the cry of my heart, was to teach my children. And then it's grown into all this. God saw all this happening when we almost lost Christian. I had no idea what God had in mind. But I also want to tell you tonight that that same God is right beside you. And he cares about whatever's sitting on your shoulders. You know, I tell about this story, how God was so real to me when I was a child, and he was. But during COVID, I struggled sometimes. We were separated from family and from friends, and it was hard, you know? And I felt like nobody really understood what we were dealing with. They might have understood over here, you know how you can tell somebody something on the phone, but they can't really understand exactly what you're feeling. And God has taught me once again this last year, Emily, I'm right here. I'm right here. Why don't you talk to me? I can feel exactly what you're feeling, and I care about what you're feeling. And not only that, he has the answers that our friends and our family and our counselors and even our pastors don't have. He has the answer. I could have never, ever, ever planned what he has planned for me. But I have trusted him with my life, and over and over and over and over again, he has been faithful to me. Because like we're fixing to celebrate this next Sunday, he's alive. Amen. And he's sitting right beside you, and he cares about what you care about. And I knew I could trust him with my sons, and I have rejoiced to see them fall in love with the same real God that I have.